Alright, so for part 2 of the Circuitscape tutorial, now we'll actually conduct the Circuitscape run. But before we proceed, please make sure that you download and install the softwares from the tutorial data package. So if you navigate to the folder here, please extract the data. And if you navigate to these under the software, you can see the Circuitscape setup. So please extract this and install it on your PC. I've already done that previously. And now I'm gonna extract the linkage mapper. All right. Once that is done, we will add the linkage mapper toolbox to our project. Again, please make sure you have installed Circuitscape on your PC before proceeding. All right, I'm assuming that you have installed Circuitscape. Next, we're going to add the toolbox. So navigate to your catalog pane. Under toolbox, right-click, select add toolbox. And here you'll navigate to the linkage mapper. Okay, that will be in the linkage mapper folder under toolbox. This is the one. All right, so I'm going to select it and click OK. So in the linkage mapper, you'll see multiple tools here, but for the Circuitscape run, we're going to focus on first the linkage pathway tools, build network, and map linkages. So this is the first tool we're going to run. So I'm going to double click on that. And next, I'm going to create a project directory. So this is going to be a folder on your PC where the tool is going to store all the outputs. So for my case, I'm going to go to my desktop. So first let me add a folder here. I'm going to my desktop. Okay. And here I've created a folder WSP, and then I've created a folder for this model run, labeled it using the species name and the extent that I'm running it on, as well as the version. So the key is to make sure that you create a folder with a short file path. So in this case, the file path is my desktop and the folder that I'm going to store all my runs in, and the species, extent, and the version. So try to keep the file path as short as possible. So in this case, let's go back to the tool and navigate to the project directory. All right. Now for the core area feature class, we're going to use the patches G2H mini, which is the habitat. And for the core area field name, I'm going to select ID0. For the resistance raster, we're going to use the one that we've created just now. And okay, so the reason why there's this one is because I have 2 layers. I can actually remove the previous layer. That should fix that. All right, next we're going to select the network adjacency method. So here we're going to use cost weighted. For the other steps, we're going to leave it as default. And here we're going to change it to 20K instead of 200K. We found that this kind of helps to reduce the processing time. And for the maximum cost-weighted corridor distance, this will be the interpatch crossing distance of the species. So in this case, because we're using greater glider, we're just going to set it at 3K for now, 3km for now. And that looks good. The rest, we're going to leave it as default. And we'll go to environment. Again, check the coordinate system, the extent that we're going to run it at, cell size, the mask, and the snap raster. Right. that looks good. And once you're happy, we're going to click run. And just a tip, so usually if there's any issues with your data layers or the extent that you're running Circuitscape on, you would usually see the tool getting stuck at this step here. So if you notice that the tool is stuck at step 1 for maybe 30 minutes to 1 hour or more, it's good to always cancel the tool and either rerun it to try to replicate the bug, or check your data layers to make sure there are no errors or inconsistencies. Or you can try to run it at a smaller scale. So, as mentioned previously, running it at the full extent would take many hours. So we would always recommend running Circuitscape at a small extent first to make sure there are no software or data issues before we proceed at the full scale. And also another part where you can use to troubleshoot is this part here. Sometimes we notice that if there are no issues with the data layers, but the tool still gets stuck at this part here, it most likely means that it's a data extent issue. So again, try to downscale your extent, run it at a smaller scale, and see if it works. So in this case, there's no issue. The model successfully run, and it took 1 minute and 18 seconds. All right. Again, just to put a disclaimer out there, under normal circumstances, it would usually take much longer, like a few hours to run. All right, so we'll close that and we'll proceed with the next tool, which is under Linkage Mapper, Additional Tools, Pinchpoint Mapper. So this is the second tool that we'll be running. So we'll navigate to the project directory, the same one that we used for the first tool, and add in the habitat. For core field name, it's ID0, and the resistance raster. So the cost-weighted corridor width would be, again, the interpatch crossing distance. So this would be 3K, same as just now. And you can leave the other settings as default. So we'll go to environments, set the coordinate system, the processing extent, cell size, mask, and snap raster. So once that is good, we're going to click run again. And just to clarify, usually if there are no issues with the first tool, there shouldn't be any issues as well with the second tool, or at least that's what we've found so far. So most of the troubleshooting would usually happen when running the first tool, and if that successfully runs, there's usually no issues for the second tool. All right, this should take a few seconds. And also, now it's done. All right, so that took 39 seconds. And again, under normal circumstances, it would also take a few hours to run this tool as well, or at a larger scale. So now I'm going to close this. And now we'll move on to creating the outputs. Sorry, not create, presenting the outputs. So here in the project file, you would see the layout that we've already created for you. So this is the template that we'll use. And here you'll find I've also included the GraphHead run, but we're going to focus on the Circuitscape folder. So we usually present the output, which you can find. Hold on, let me close this. All right, so if we navigate to the project directory that we used just now, which again, it's in my desktop, and the output can be found here in the output folder. and the Pinchpoint geodatabase. So this is the layer that we normally present as the output of our Circuitscape run. So how do we replace the data layer is we'll double click on this and set data source. So I'll navigate to my desktop, WSP, the species folder, output, and Pinchpoint geodatabase, and this layer here. It normally would have the underscore current adjacent pairs underscore 3K, which is the interpatch crossing distance. And this is the output that we want. So I'll select OK. And again, you can replace the patches the same way, set data source, folder, tutorial data, Circuitscape, habitat, G2H mini. There you go. And for the resistance, we'll use the resistance from the resistance folder instead. All right. For the least cost paths and the components here, these are from the GraphHab model run. So for the least cost path, we'll do the same. Double click on that, set data source, and navigate to the tutorial data, GraphHab, and the species X v1 folder, which is the GraphHab output, and select the link set 3000 links. Okay, and for the components, the same. We'll go to the GraphHab, species X, and select the IIC components. So that's how you compile the outputs. You may experiment with the different colors, but this is what we've used so far. And that concludes our tutorial session for today. I hope this session has been helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to email us, and we'll try to answer your questions promptly. So take care and all the best for your projects. Have a great day ahead. All right. One more thing that I forgot to mention is that when you need to get the graph head matrices, for example, for these details, you can access it by going to Open Project. So File, Open Project, and navigate to the folder of your GraphHab output. So in this case, I have already stored mine in my Dropbox. Processing. Okay, so let's use woodland birds as an example. If you go to the folder that you use to run GraphHab, so in this case it's woodland birds version 2. What I would do is navigate to it and open this XML file. And this should pull up the outputs that you got previously. And in this case, what we want to do is we will go to the global matrices. So if you go to metrics and then go to global metrics, here you can select, for example, the mean size of components that would be accessible here. And once you click that, click OK and give it some time to calculate. And this is the output. So I would copy that and paste it in my Excel. So next would be repeat it for the size of the largest component. And there you go. All right. And for the next one, number of components. Okay. And the IIC value. As for the patches and links, that is Let me check. I think that is what we need to get from ArcGIS. Um, but the total patch area, yeah. So okay, so those are the data that we can get from GraphHub. For the patches, I'll just open up my ArcGIS and so the first one would be the number of patches. Here I would just go to the attribute table and you can see here the number of patches is 1816. And for the links, I would go to the edges, the least cost path. It should be the same for edges and least cost path, so it's 4664. And for the total patch area, I would go to patches, and if you can see there is the area column. I would right click on it and get the statistics. And here you can get the sum of the area. I believe if you use summarize, oh no, yeah, so statistics is good enough. So here you can get the sum. And I would copy that and paste it here. So that is how we get the numbers for the table that we usually use to compile the results. Okay, hope that helps. And also just want to highlight that that's why it's very important to make sure you store the GraphHub output folder in your as part of your database, and don't delete it first until you've gotten all the information that you need.